more hours. Now, just looking at the table right now, I am Rita Kanya, joined by David Rukasi, and I am also joined by my fellow Rita this morning. And one thing that we do know is that David and I could be doing the same job. I don't know if it's true or if it's not true, but for a number of people, you sit at a desk next opposite someone, and David is earning 1 million Uganda shillings, and maybe I am earning 300,000. But we do the same work. David is going to remain silent because you will not poke and dig a carpet.
Anyway, before I give my opinions, and first of all, let's welcome Miss Rita Atukwasa, the Executive Director, Institute for Transformation. It's your month, so we're talking issues concerning you and your people, the ladies, but of course there are people as well, because they are mothers and wives, and then they end up being our children at some point. Gender pay equality, I think it's the power of negotiation. If she negotiates something 500,000 and I am able to negotiate 1 million Ghana shillings, why should I take the blame for that?
Yeah, you know, when discrimination sets in, oftentimes you refer it to the power of negotiation. It beats my understanding. Why on earth do you have to subject me to a negotiation while you're actually moving towards discriminating me? When you talk about discrimination, why I said negotiation sets in. For instance, when it comes to property inheritance, they'll say, no, women or girls do not ask. One time I asked my mother-in-law, she was wondering, I asked her, did they ever give you property? And she asked me, I don't know why. Then I asked her, have you ever thought about why? Then she went and took a mile to ask the brother, how come, by the way? They said, you never asked. Then I said, did the boys ask? No, they didn't ask. So the same thing. Discrimination, when you want to effect it, you push it to negotiation, you push it to say they didn't argue for it, while men never need to argue for anything. So the principle rule should be we are all equal, like the Constitution guarantees us. We are all born free and equal before the law, with equal dignity. So do not even think about negotiation. Set the standard. If you say you are paying me for work done, let's say as a housemaid, or because I do work for you, just let it be. Why do you have to pay me much less and then pay the shamba boy more? But even in a formal employment, personally, Rita, this happened when I had started working. And then I worked for 2 years, I was promoted. I didn't even ask for that promotion. I think they sat and management felt I was fit to be promoted as a manager. Guess what happened? I was very excited, only to get the appointment letter and my salary was staying as was.
So it was just the job title that changed?
Yes. They wanted me to do more work, and you know what had happened? There was this man in the organization who actually was not performing and been recommended to be relieved of his duties. And you know what they said to me? That they needed that man to get that money because I was young, because I was a lady, I didn't need the money. So these things are real. There's no hypothetical assumptions about it.
As we get into the fact that it is real, on Take Note this morning, talking about gender pay equality, that is Rita's personal experience. But the thing is, this Friday we'll be talking about balance for better. And as it stands, according to the Uganda National Household Survey data set of 2012-2013, on average, women earn 41% what men are paid in Uganda. Yes, for every 90,000 Uganda shillings that a woman earns, a man earns 220,000 Uganda shillings in the same occupation. And education qualifications do not matter to them at all. Those are the facts. For every 90,000 that a woman will get, a man will get 220,000 Uganda shillings. But guess what? That same woman is putting in the same exact effort. And education qualifications do not matter. Women are earning constantly less than men, whether they had a degree or had no formal schooling at all.
I think it comes from a perception where people think women do not have what we need to use the money for, the perception that we are looked after, the perception that we do not have our responsibilities, we are not the heads of the household. So they think for every woman there is somebody to chip in and top up on their life, even when it comes to pay. So And we carry this sometimes into positions of power, into decision making, and we do make such laws. But also it comes with the bias that people have against working women, where some still think, oh, this space is not yours. They see you being there as a favor, not by right, that you qualify to sit in that position. Then the other thing comes into access to education. Very true, and not on education and opportunities. If you have a same portfolio with a gentleman, it's going to be very easy for him to be given opportunities. You know, go training, go here, do more extra things, because in their mind, they just look at you and think, they need to feel a bit sorry for you. So they don't need to stretch you sometimes. And when they are pressing the man against you, then eventually you find that in their mind they start perceiving that you're not doing your work. But for sure, equal pay.
Rita, don't you think that, like you say, in their mind they think, do you think it applies to you women as well, that in your mind you think that you don't deserve the same pay as men, so they don't give it to you because you don't think you deserve it as well? You don't claim for it because you think you don't deserve it as well. And don't you think that you're taking personal experiences too far? Because there are men who will come out and say as well, this lady is getting more money than I am because she's looking nice at the office or having a good time with the boss. She's getting more money than I am. There are men out there who will come out and complain.
Do you believe in statistics?
I think statistics, yes, 50-50, because they don't really bring out the whole
we don't
picture.
need to go far. We just need a sample of this station.
Trust me, here at NTV, things are okay.
I wouldn't assert that unless it is evidenced and said yes, it does, because experience shows already. She's telling you, per the 90,000, the woman will get. How much did they say?
He gets 220.
220. Sometimes we don't need to look far. Even when we perceive ourselves to be at standard, just walk in there. Just try it. You don't have to tell me the results. I would want to make it very clear. Do not subject discrimination to negotiation. Set the standard clear and straight. That is the basic rule. That when things are by right, no one gives them, not even the state.
But Rita, any employer will tell you, if I am going to employ Rita and I'm going to employ David at the same time, I'll use negotiation skills. I'm not going to say, well, Rita, how much are you going to get this time around? 1 million Uganda shillings. Okay, whatever guy comes into this building has to earn 1 million shillings.
If you have sales or marketeers, we do look for adverts. I know I've done that before. You set a target. You set a target, you say the best value is this, you'll be paid. You're going to go out to look for adverts, and for every advert you get, you make an increment. That becomes more an equal basis of setting. But if you want to put women above, over and above, the men over and above the women, then you set the grounds for discrimination. That's what I've said, that if you believe that here in this station things are grounded, you will find that we shall sail through the same levels. Do you get what I mean? So the conversation stops subjecting it to negotiation, wanting to claim that men negotiate. After all, the grounds you would set for negotiating will not be favorable for the woman. If I appear at the panel, one of the things like employers use is your previous base of a salary. And remember, I have achievements, I have aspirations, and sometimes you know your potential. That is one other thing employers use to discriminate. And then you come out to, you say, I've been earning 1.5 million, and for sure this job, I want 2.5 million, and they ask you, what is your previous pay?
But they do that to the men as well. Why do you think that it is only targeted
Because women have a history of poor payment, it becomes more disadvantageous to rise from where they are below the level of men to come and be at your same footing. If you came from a job and you're earning 1.5, this woman was earning 700,000. Do you realize how much twice she needs to be able, even when you subject it to negotiate, to come nearer where you are? Do you see that lens?
As we talk about this conversation, and Rita raises one thing, which is setting the standards. Yes, because right now within our country, the government pays, they try to make sure that they pay the same amount based on the workload and your qualification. But in the private sector, now those are the facts that you're looking at, that the government, even though it's not perfect and we're always complaining, it is a better employer. 300,000 Uganda shillings versus men's 350,000 Uganda shillings, and that puts the wage gap at about 80% within the private and the public sector. It's very, very high. But also one thing that we need to look at is setting the standard as women. What happens next? Because personally, I have chosen that if maybe they were going to get me to do something, and I know that they could pay a man that same amount, if I have that forehand information, I will say no to that amount of money that they're giving me, because it has happened, but I will say no, because I know my worth. And if I'm going to do the same amount of work as a man, perhaps surely, what can a woman who's out there watching this and realizing this is how much I'm actually getting, and this man is getting more, what can she do?
I think one of the things you do is to interrogate what policies exist in such institutions. Because you see, when you want to take things because you are favored, I told you my experience, and when I approached somebody where I was working, do you know what they told me? They said, Rita, people don't get what they get because they deserve. They get because of who you're able to influence. And when you put that to women, then issues of violence and sexual violence set in. That's why we are against that criteria, to say throw it for negotiation, set a standard. Because when you throw it for negotiation, now you start to predispose women and girls for sexual abuse. Because if I come in to negotiate, now you've gotten a bite every time you say, oh, you remember about your increment. So we need to interrogate the policies that exist in institutions where we work. What does the policy say? Does it provide for equality in terms of pay? And when that is there, then you have a very clear, straightforward basis to demand for what is due to you without making it feel like it's a favor that you're doing for me. Because I'm doing good work for you, your favor is in turn to pay me. But we are trading on equal footing. You run a very good show. I watch you now and again. Many other men also run very good shows. So why would you pay men higher and pay you less? This is not only in formal employment. You saw that with athletics. Yes. How much women athletes earn compared to their male counterparts. What is it that they do not do well? Serena Williams was at the top of that. For sure, she said, I do not have to compete against a man for me to know that my potential is equally that important to the man. If it was a choice that she had to make, she said, I would have beaten a man. But that is not a choice I need to make to prove that. I am a woman and I'm a woman. I do good. I play very good tennis. So I should be paid well for that. But it didn't happen. Yeah.
So do we ask the companies for this? Because right now, as it stands within Uganda, from 2016, there were a number of private companies that came up and joined and pledged to adopt the Gender Equality Seal Certification Program within the private sector to make sure that when it came to payments, if it was for the male or for the female, they would actually be paid the same amount of money if it was for the same work done. So should people start asking their bosses, do we have a policy in place? Do you start asking the men, how much are you paid? And will they be forthcoming?
You know, sometimes when we are talking about these things, we need to do an extra. Start with the policy which you have veiled. Because all institutions really do have base value of policies that they follow. Start by looking at that. What does it say? What are the positions that are available in such an institution? How are the payments done? Then look beyond. Sometimes institutions are very smart that the policy in terms of a salary will be equal, but the benefits are not even. And sometimes you see people get much more money in benefits. Is it housing allowance? Is it transport? Is it overnight allowance? Is it overtime allowance? When it's given discriminatory. and you find that people who are frequent to get such allowances over and above their salaries are men. So you need to have an eye. When you're talking about gender, it's about having that sharp eye to be able to critique, to ask questions, to be able to dig deeper. Why are things happening the way they are? By the way, if you never take effort, you might never know how much your male counterpart earns.
David, how much do you earn?
Rita.
David, how much do you earn?
Let's not hide away from the facts. As an employer, you will look at these are facts, and it's straightforward. Many people wouldn't want to say it. If I have a man and a woman on the table, there are two things I'm looking at. As an employer, I want someone that is going to be at the job longer. I want someone that is going to work longer. And naturally, you have incidents where you have a woman getting pregnant and she has to take leave, and she will ask for how long?
60 working days.
60 working days. As an employer, I'm just looking at it that way. Do you think that, do you want to blame me for wanting to choose a person that is going to stay longer and more dependable at this job than the person that there is a chance they're going to be missing 60 days of work?
They are not missing. They are doing an obligation. And as an employer, you have an obligation by the Constitution to grant someone 60 working days maternity. And how many are paternity days? Would you claim your paternity days if your wife was, also you are the guys we are looking for? That when your wives are going through labor, you don't want to be there to support them.
I don't need leave to do that.
Just how then will you be in hospital? Make sure the whole day you've been there, she's gone through labor pains, the baby has come, you have ensured this baby has not been given up.
It's not going to take 60 days. The labor pains are not going to take 60 days.
No, but you're right, you're entitled. Is it 60? I mean 6
days.
6 days for paternity
6 days compared to 60.
No, the law gives according to the need.
My question,
you are not going to take 60 days. So what I'm trying to put into you to understand that getting 60 working days is not a favor, it's a right. And when something is by right and by constitution, it is not negotiable.
I agree.
And as an employer, what you need to do, that's why we have standards in society, that we have laws. So you cannot use against women giving birth. They must give birth. Otherwise, this world would all be extinct. So you need to provide a framework to support them, give them 60 working days. That's not negotiable. I shouldn't even be talking about it right now. NTV, NBS, every employer should as outright right. Let them go and nurture. Let them rest. Let them recover and regain their health.
Do you think you're going to get this by demanding for it?
Yes.
Simply demanding for it.
It is not.
Because let us be honest. You are not going to demand that any employer pays the same to their employees because you are demanding.
These things have come this far not because people have knelt down and cried to anybody. People have worked so hard to get this far. One of this area for equal pay gap is one of the areas that has been not very much worked for, because there are other issues of violence, there are other issues of discrimination, but surely it will come. And let me tell you, when I am working, I'm giving you my equal labor. You're talking about extra hours. You employ me to work for you 8 hours. My job description is very clear. My targets are well laid. The question becomes, am I
meeting the targets?
Am I meeting the targets?
Sure.
We know some people sleep in the offices not because they are working, but you're doing other things. And you want to give a negative impression to your employer that you're working very hard. Sometimes not.
Okay.
Do you see? So give me the standard of my delivery. Can I deliver to that? Can I be able to get equal pay?
Which, as you speak about standards, one thing that comes, and we talk about policies, how about the law? Because last year, Iceland actually said that they would be making sure, and they legislated this on January 1st, fines would be imposed on those companies and government agencies that fail to guarantee equal pay to men and women. Should we have a law within our country that perhaps will say, because they say maybe negotiation, let's ask for policies, let's try and have a sharp eye. Where is the Constitution coming to make sure that this needs to be a law?
Chapter 4, Article 20, I told you, says we are all born free and equal and with dignity. So progressively, I know we'll get there. Right now, it has not been a cutting-edge conversation because there are many, many other things. But as we progress to say more numbers in employment, more equal, especially in the private sector. Yes, in government, when it comes to numbers of who has the fat jobs and all that, yes, there comes issues. But really, when you get there, the platform is kind of well leveled. So when it comes to the private sector, that's one of the things that increasingly are being fished out. As I was waiting in the lobby, I had the Honorable Minister Mary Achambade, and she was here actually to talk about Bubu. And then we're having these conversations. I was telling her I came to speak about the gender pay and equal pay for men and women. And we're saying, what does that mean to Bubu? For people who be employing these young boys or even adults, boys, men and women. What does it mean? So progressively, the law will come to be fished out. There's no law now which allows discrimination, but possibly we'll have more clauses to enforce to say equal pay must be enforced even within the private sector. Yeah, there's no shy about that. So progressively that will have to come, but the Constitution provides us a base. The Employment Act does not discriminate to say pay men more, pay women more. No. We have the basics of what we need. So if you're an employer and you're out there discriminating women, paying them less for equal work done, that is an injustice, and I think it should not thrive. You should rethink. But if your women working interrogate the policies that govern the institutions where you work, it gives you a basis to be able to push your issues ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting one. So you still insist? You still insist we shouldn't get into negotiations when it comes to equal pay?
I am saying you can negotiate, but that should not be the benchmark to say that women are paid less because they do not negotiate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Rita Atukwasa, Executive Director, Institute for Transformation. Take note, today we have been talking about
for Social Transformation.
Institute for Social Transformation. Okay. Thank you very much for that correction. We have been looking at gender pay equality. This is the month that, of course, we're going to have more of these discussions and more discussions concerning women. And today, well, looking at pay equality, right after the show, I'm going to make sure that me and Rita go into a corner so that she can show me how much she's earning, and I can tell her my figure as well.
Why do we have to go to a corner to have this conversation?
Just to make sure it doesn't blow up, because by any chance, if I am earning more than...
national TV.
Actually, let's do it. We're going to try and do this, not on national TV. Not on national TV, but anyway, away from that, we're coming back with the business updates, where we're going to be having the Minister of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Honorable Amelia Chambade, joining Mala. So keep it morning at NTV, because the conversation is just getting started.